Hey there, friends. Thought I'd hop on while I work on this project here. I'm getting all the quilt doodle pads. Well, not all of them. There's a lot. But I'm working on getting them packed up so they can be shipped out. It's a big job. It's a little job. It's just a lot of job. So getting myself organized here and getting these put together and packed up so they can be shipped out. And I thought I would hang out with some people, say hi, see if anyone was around, just chit chat. Sunday at the office, which is a quiet day. I try often not to come in on weekends if I can, but lately I have been absolutely failing. I was here for a little bit yesterday, here for a bit today. So yeah, I've been here more than 14 days straight. At this point, but yeah, it's just part of getting everything done. So just thought I'd hop on, say hi, see who's hanging out with you if you're sewing or working on other stuff. Go ahead and pop in the comments and oh, hi Angela. Pop in the comments and say hey, where you're hanging out, what you're up to today. I have a whole stack. Well, I have like a bunch of stacks of these sitting here that I'm going to go through and get all packed up so that once these are packed, I can hopefully work on processing actual orders and get these ready to drop off at the post office tomorrow and at UPS so they can go out in the world. Lots of steps. So for those of you who are new around here, sometimes slides get shown to people who don't know. Hi, I'm Carolina. I'm a quilt pattern designer and notion inventor. Right now I'm working on bagging up quilt doodle pads so these can go out in the world. Just getting them all in their little bags. Putting a border on your first big quilt, that is super exciting. I don't know if you're up for advice, but if you aren't, ignore everything that I'm about to say. If you are, I learned the hard way to measure. So when measuring borders, it doesn't matter if you're doing the side borders first or the top borders first. Let's say you're doing the side borders first. Measure one side and then the middle and then the other side and then average that. So if it's like 50, 49, 48, then that's going to average to 49 and then cut your borders at 49 inches. And then pin your borders on each side, pin at the top and bottom, and then in the middle, and then the middle of those middles, and then the middle of those middles, so that it's called easing the seam. So that way, instead of just slapping the border on and sewing all the way through, and then you end up at the end with like a ½ inch that you're off, then you your border will sit nicely, and that extra inch or so on the 50-inch side will ease right in, and you won't have big ruffles or puckers, and everything will be smooth and hang nicely and lay nicely. I learned the hard way from many quilts that had puckers or ripples or just weren't square when they were finished, and that was why, was because I didn't measure and then I didn't pin. And then I have a video that I want to do on borders because I did a YouTube short on making a quilt at the fair, and that quilt isn't quite big enough, and I want to give it some cohesion, so I want to add borders to it. Although I might do scrap tape borders, we'll see. But I want to add borders to it just to make it a little bit bigger, and so I want to turn that into a video on how to add borders to a quilt, because I think borders can be really frustrating if not done right. Let's see. Hi Honor. Sipping a cocktail from the patio. I'm jealous, Angela. I'm working. Hi Helen from Texas. Getting fabric ready for a new quilt. I need to be working on that today as well. Yes, always busy, always doing something. If I wasn't doing this, I would be cutting fabric. The block of the month quilt for next year, the 2025 block of the month quilt, I've written the block patterns, and so those are all with pattern testers. And then I need to finish doing the math for the fabric requirements for the whole quilt. All I have left is to add up all of the background fabric the fabric for the blocks has been added up. Oh, binding is like a whole nother thing. I have a couple videos on binding that might help. I have one, like the complete guide to putting on binding with a machine, with the figure sewing machine, front and back, and that has helped a lot of people with their binding. So, yeah, but borders, if you ever put on your borders and when you like lay the quilt out, the edges of the borders are wavy. They're called wavy borders. Or, and this is not to be the quilt police, like we're not going to be the quilt police, but if you ever see a quilt at a quilt show and it's hanging at a quilt show and the bottom of the quilt waves, so the top is straight, right, and then when it gets to the bottom, it's kind of has like a curtain, like it has the waves on it. That happens very often when putting on borders that your border is longer, and so you might not totally see it until it's hanging, and that's when you see that ripple on it. But if and it can make it really tricky for if you send your quilt to a long armor. If you've really significant, I don't want to say bad because that's putting a value judgment on it. We don't want to put value judgments on it. But if you have really significant difference between like when you really have to like stretch your quilt top to be able to fit the border onto the quilt top, you'll end up with a lot of waves, and then you send it to your long armor, and your long armor is now trying to take this thing that you've basically added a ruffle border on, not intentionally, and they've got to try to make that flat on their long arm. They'll sometimes put like little pin tucks in it, and they'll try to hide those, but sometimes and it depends on the skill of the long armor, sometimes those are harder to hide. Now, if you quilt your own quilts and you find that you have like a ruffle border like that, one thing that you can do to try to minimize that ruffle on that border is add extra quilting to the border. So that means that you quilt the border more densely than the quilt. And the reason that this works is because quilting, like quilting your quilt, actually sucks up fabric. And I'm trying to see if I have something here that I can use as an example of it sucking up fabric. I have a quilt right here. Let's see if I can grab this quilt. Okay. This is a quilt that you may have seen before. This is Peppermint Stripe. It's one of my diamond strip ruler quilts. Okay. So you can kind of see that the quilting on here, and I did send this out for quilting. This was quilted by someone else, by Long Armor. You can kind of see that it adds texture. So you can kind of see that there's like a, let's see if I can bring it even closer. And no, I can't see. But you can kind of see that the stitching kind of brings it in. Where there's stitching lines, it gets brought in. And the reason that is because you have your quilt, and when the stitching line goes there, the stitching is bringing in that top, and then the batting, and then the backing, and it's bringing it together. So the stitching brings it in. And as you can see, it takes this much fabric, and that now takes less space. You have to see, I have to bring my hands in a little bit. And so the more lines of stitching that you add, the more it's going to suck up that fabric in the stitching to, yeah, because of the stitching. So if you densely quilt something, it will suck up more fabric. And so if you have something that's a little bit roughly, quilt it more densely, and that's going to suck up that extra fabric. And your quilt will at least lay more flat, maybe not completely flat. And then what else? Oh, I once, early on in my quilting, I had a quilt that I was talking to someone about earlier today, that it had like a volcano in the middle. I've had it twice with like volcanoes. One was really bad. One was a block of the month where it was set on the diagonal, and there was a big like focus piece in the middle, and then the other blocks were around it. And yeah, it was like a giant pimple in the middle that was just like bulgy extra fabric. And the long armor, it's actually the same long armor that does this, thank you Tammy, quilted it for me and knew that was a problem. I'd let her know, because when you have problems, don't hide them from your long armor. Your long armor is your best friend in getting it figured out. So I gave it to my long armor and I said, Tammy, I don't know, like we had it laid out on the quilt shop floor. And so she knew, and she said, I'm just going to quilt that more densely. And she did. Like she was really careful when she laid it on the long arm, and she quilted it more densely, and it sucked up that extra fabric. There were no puckers, no wrinkles. Like you had no clue the terrible piecing that was done on this, because Tammy, the long armor, saved me. So, yeah, this is why also I feel like, we talk about Quilt Police, which is people who tell you how, you're doing it wrong, you should do it better. You know what? There's shortcuts everywhere, but there's also like fixes. When you screw something up in one part, or you do something, you make a different choice in one part of your quilting, it can sometimes be fixed or caught up in other parts, right? So like if you are not someone who cuts your quilts, your fabric accurately, maybe you square up later and you work on squaring up super accurately. And so that it didn't really matter that your pieces, instead of cutting 3 7/8 inch pieces, you cut 4-inch pieces because you think 7/8 is nonsense. That's allowed. You fix it or catch up by squaring it up later to the right size, and then they become accurate again. So there's more than one way to get a beautiful, accurate quilt. And also, no one ever said that an accurately pieced quilt keeps you warmer than an inaccurately pieced quilt. No one says that there is more love in an accurately pieced quilt than an inaccurately pieced quilt, right? There is not more love because your points matched. There isn't. There isn't. There's just as much love in a quilt where the points don't match. In fact, sometimes I feel like the ones that just have those imperfections, you can just feel the maker. They want it's less clinical, I guess. And I'm someone who likes to have things be perfect a lot of the time, but like sometimes it just doesn't need to be. All right, let me pop into the comments. Let's see. Yeah, the ruffling is a common problem. Yeah, you can trim the quilt. But yeah, if you measure it, average it, and then ease it in along the seam, that'll really help. Somewhere I should pull out some of my quilting disasters and show some that I really could have improved on. Yay! Congrats, Sandra, on your very first quilt block on January 1st. Welcome to quilting. This is a really fun community. I'm happy to have you here. Hope that there are many more quilts in your future. Quilting is definitely fun. Yeah. So as you're popping in, folks, I'm working on a Sunday, just because the work never ends, and it doesn't there's no elves who come into my office in the middle of the night and get it all done. That would be nice though. I don't know if someone knows the Google form where I sign up to have the elves come and do the stuff. Let me know, because that sounds like a really cool Google Doc to add myself to, that the elves would come in. I could leave them a list. I would leave them snacks too. I could leave them a list and snacks, and they could come get the stuff done. But I just launched Quilt Doodle Pad on Friday, and so now I have to bag them up because people have been ordering them. Often I'll have them bagged up and ready to go ahead of time when I have projects like this, but here's some behind the scenes for you. These bags just came in on Friday because this is fun. Well, you can see these are the bags that I ordered because these are 4x6 notepads, and I said, okay, like a bag that fits a 4x6. But because I haven't done notepads before, actually this is a 5x6 bag. It won't fit in a 5x6 bag because of the depth of the notepad. It takes up more space, and so they did not zip closed. And so then I thought, okay, well, I could use my regular pattern bags. I have one still in the pattern bag. So I tried putting them in the pattern bag, but this just looks sad. This just isn't, this is not okay. I'm not okay with this small thing in this big, it just doesn't look nice. So I had to find the right size bags, get those ordered, and get those in. And so now I have them in, and I want to get these start to ship out on Monday. So now they look like they're in the right size bag, because this is the right size bag. All right, let me know, what are y'all doing on a Sunday other than hanging out with me here on YouTube? Are you working on quilt projects? Are you just hanging out, relaxing? This has been a crazy busy weekend for me with all the things going on. I've had event after event after event back to back. And then I was actually supposed to go to trivia tonight, but everyone else was like, no, it's been busy. We're not going to do trivia tonight, which I still would have gone, but I think it's probably a good call. And that way I can hopefully spend a little more time getting caught up on all this, because I have more and more busy this weekend. or this week. It's not a busy week. Hoping to get some filming done this week. I should, fingers crossed, finish all the filming for this year's advent calendar. So the pre-sale price is still available for the advent calendar right now. I think it's through, yes, I mean, I know it's through Friday, the pre-sale price. So the pre-sale price on the advent calendar is still up, and I will finish filming that. I will also film a full of spoilers video that shows all the things that people want to know. Some people like it to be a surprise, and some people absolutely want to know what they're getting, which totally understand. So for people who want a surprise, they don't watch that video. And for people who want to know everything that they're getting, they can watch that video and see all of the ins and outs of everything, of the whole thing. So starching fabric for the first time. Usually I just use unwashed and unstarched fabric, hoping that starching will help with all the fraying that happens. So I'm not a pre-washer. I've never been a pre-washer, and I don't think that's going to change. So I'm not a pre-washer, and I used to be a non-starcher as well. But then I took a free motion quilting feathers class from Sharon Schomburg, who is a multi-award-winning, like Houston award-winning, incredible quilter. You should look her up. She's still around, still doing really cool stuff. She's been a little quiet for a couple of years there, but she's incredible. I mean, and her work is it's aspirational. It's really, really good. And I was woefully underskilled taking her class. It was basically, I don't want to say it was over my head, because I mean, I understood what she was saying, but it was definitely beyond my skill set. It really stretched me, but I learned a lot. And I mean, I learned the basics of how to do a feather, and then I just got the practice in, and now I can do a feather nicely. But Sharon Schomburg talked about starching fabric, and I learned from her how to starch fabric, which is actually really similar to the way that Fat Quarter Shop, that they starch their fabric, which is I take my fabric, and I have a video on it as well. I soak it in starch, and then I just let it hang dry. And then I come back and I iron it. I mist it a little with water if it needs, if it's gotten kind of wrinkly as it dried, because I didn't like lay it flat enough. And that's how I starch my fabric, and I love it. I love starched fabric. I get a little annoyed when I don't use starched fabric, because I love starched fabric. All right, my table's getting a little bit messy here, full of stuffs. I need to start putting these a little more organized instead of just in a bin, or well, in a bin instead of laying all over the table. What's everybody else working on? Anyone else have some plans this week? Quilty or otherwise? All right, we've talked about putting borders on quilts. We've talked about starching fabric. What other fun quilty things? There's that meme that sometimes goes around that says, like, what topic could you talk about for 30 minutes with absolutely no prep? And I don't know about 30 minutes about talking about starching or borders, but I could talk about quilting definitely for 30 minutes without prep, without anything ahead of time. Just hop on and start talking quilting. So if there's something quilty specific, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So on Friday, I went to go watch my cousin's band, which embarrassingly, I had not gone to see his band before Friday. So I did. I finally went, and they were great. And so I went to go see them at a local winery. They were playing, which, I mean, get to hang out at a winery and listen to an 80s, 90s cover band, and like that, just hang out with a couple other of my cousins. Like, that sounded great. And then I walk in, And they have everything set up for a calligraphy class at the winery as well. And I was like, by any chance, do you have an extra seat? And she did. She had an extra seat, so I paid for that extra seat. I took it. And then just for fun, I sat and took a calligraphy class. And this was like with nibs that you like dip in the inkwell. So, which I had not done. Like I've done calligraphy and faux calligraphy, but I hadn't done a dip nibs in inkwell calligraphy before. So that was a new experience and that was fun and I enjoyed that. Getting to do something different. Yeah. And I like always just trying new things, learning, remembering what it is to learn and to not know all the things, because the things that we have in our head right now, some of them feel like we've known them forever, like walking. We don't have to think about how to walk, but there was a point where none of us knew how to walk. No one was born knowing how to walk. Whew. All right, these stacks are starting to come down a little bit, but they're still pretty big. Big, huge stacks of... I counted out about how many would get me through at least most of these orders that I have here. And then we'll see where it goes from there. Am I teaching any classes anytime soon? So I used to do classes at guilds up until earlier this year. I would do lectures and classes with guilds, and then sometimes shops, but usually it was guilds booking me. But like the whole business right now is still just me, working on changing that, but it's me doing just about everything. Every now and then like husband or Kate will come in and help out with stuff, but it's a lot me. And then like Angela's on here, she helps with the pattern testers and sample makers, so she helps run all them for me so that I don't have the extra email communications, because emails are not my favorite, and make sure that all that gets handled and does all those logistics for me, which is awesome. Thank you, Angela. So appreciate you. In fact, the pattern testers right now have both advent calendar and 2025 block of the month that they're working on, so that's fabulous because it's off my plate and it's getting worked on. But yeah, a lot of it is really like the bulk is just me. And I mean, I'm here on a Sunday afternoon, so I had to look at the business and figure out which things I needed to take off my plate. And while I love teaching and I love connecting with people and I love that part, it means like just for a 1 hour lecture, I did the math on one of the last lectures that I did, just to like kind of do a gut check to make sure that the decision I was making really was the direction I wanted to go. And for a 1 hour lecture, it was like 90 minutes of prep time and packing up the car. And then it was local, so like 30 minutes to drive there, so that's 2 hours. And then at a guild, usually they do their guild meeting and then the lecture. So then it was like an hour of sitting through a guild meeting, so now we're at 3 hours. And then an hour of giving a lecture, that's a 4th hour. And then hanging out for like a half hour afterwards to sell stuff. So that's 4.5 hours. And then packing up, which is another half. Well, I could probably pack up in 15 minutes. But let's say a half hour just for round numbers. So that's 5 hours. And then still coming back here and putting everything away. So like 6 hours. So even if some of those are overestimations, which they're really not, it was like 5 hours of work for what looks like an hour of work. And it was all stuff that like pulled me away. And trying to multitask is the only way that I can get like all the things done that I do. So like right now I'm hanging out with you guys, but also I'm packing quilt doodle pads so that I can get these orders out. So very, very often I'm multitasking with things. A lot of the short videos that y'all see where I'm showing a technique or a project or a product, you're actually seeing the behind the scenes of something else that I'm working on. So many of my videos are multitasking things. Every now, like I try to make those ones interesting as well. But then there are sometimes things that, like I did a video on how do you know what size to cut the box corners on your zipper pouches, right? What's the difference between a 1 inch, a 2 inch, or a 3 inch box corner on a zipper pouch? And I made all of those 3 sizes of zipper pouches so people could see like what the difference is when you cut your box corners different sizes. That one, those pouches were not for anything else. That was just a video that I'd gotten a request for, and I thought would be a good video that people would enjoy. So yeah, I had to pull back on teaching because there's only one me, and I couldn't be all the places at all the times, no matter how hard I tried. Yeah. And also, like, when I was making that decision, I also it was shortly after I messed up my tailbone, and so travel was super painful. A week after I messed up my tailbone, I went up to a gill up in LA, which was like a 2-hour drive. I was in so much pain. I was in so, like, I bought a donut pillow. I got that up there early, and I bought a donut pillow at the CVS, and it didn't even help. I was just, because the donut pillow is for, it does, like, it needs to cut out at the tailbone part, not the in front of the tailbone part. So, yeah, the donut pillow didn't help. I was in so much pain. Oh. All right, Helen says she's finishing laundry. Will be attending a Handy Quilter 3-day workshop in about a week. I've had a Sweet 16 quilter on a HQ Littlefoot frame, but had very limited instructions. Is there more on that comment? I think it cut you off. Oh, where did it go? Oh no! I think I deleted your message. No, I'm sorry. All right. Well, Helen, I don't know what I'm doing, but I deleted your message. I can still see it, but I think it's deleted for everyone else. I'm so sorry. But Helen says that, yeah, she's taking a Handy Quilter 3-day workshop, which sounds super fun. I got a Baby Lock Gallant XL earlier this year, long arm, and it's been so much fun. Yeah, it's been a blast to play on it and get some quilts done on it and experiment on it. I scheduled out shorts for the rest of this week, so there is a little short video on a little experiment that I did, which was, I wanted to see if I could reduce time, because again, I'm trying to maximize time efficiency, right? So I wanted to reduce the amount of time that it took to quilt quilts. And I have a lot of, well, not a lot. I've got like, I don't know, 4 or 5 bolts of 108 wide fabric from Art Gallery Fabric. So 108 wide is specifically, I mean, you can use it for whatever because it's good fabric, but it is designed to be for backings, so you don't have to piece your backings. So if I loaded a bunch of 108 wide fabric on the long arm, which my long arm isn't quite 108 inches long, so I had to actually trim off a little bit, but that's okay. But if I loaded a bunch of fabric on the backing fabric on the long arm, could I quilt, like just quilt after quilt after quilt after quilt? And would that be more efficient? And the answer is there are some limitations. So I show some of that in the video. Oh, what are we packing? Well, hi DJ, welcome to the party. We are packing quilt doodle pads. These launched on Friday. They're little notepads that are designed for doodling your own 12-inch quilt blocks. And they're designed for like when you're on a Zoom call or when you're in a meeting or when you're like on the phone or doing whatever else, so that your concentration is a little bit split. It helps because it has a middle dot, and then it has dots at the 3-inch square on each corner, and then dots right here at the 4-inch square at each corner. So it helps with doing like 9 patches and 16 patches. You don't have to sit there and count the little squares, because even when I am focused, sometimes I can't count little squares. So those dots, they don't detract from the design. They kind of blend right in, but they help you when you see them. You go, oh, all right, that's where my middle is. That's where my corners are. And then at the bottom, there's spaces where you can figure out the math. So if you design a quilt block that you hate, that's fine. Just put it to the side. Or one that's like fine, no worries, put it to the side. But if you design one and say, I want to actually sew this. This quilt block needs to exist in fabric and not just paper. Then you can do the math, and the instructions help you to do the math to figure out the seam allowances for all your pieces. Super simple math. It's addition. It's not even hard addition. edition. And that way you can do math, or you can figure out the cutting instructions for your block and then sew it together. So there's 50 sheets on a pad, so they will last quite a while. I've been working my way through some. Oh, darn it, I left it at home. I had to run to Target yesterday for something else, and I was walking through the office supply section, and they had both markers and colored pencils, which are my two favorite to use. Like crayons are fine, but I just don't like the waxy feel. I'm kind of touch sensitive on some stuff, so I like markers. I like colored pencils, and they had like big packs of like the skinny markers, not the big fat markers, and of the colored pencils. I want to say it was like maybe 60 markers or 60. One of them I want to say had like 64. I could be wrong though, but it was like a lot. So it wasn't just like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, black, pink. Like it was like 3 different kinds of pink. So it was good. Uh-oh, Helen, no, you didn't. What didn't I do? Try quilting large quilts on this small thing. Very frustrating. I'm going to buy a larger one in the near future. So I have a baby lock ballad, and before that I had what was it? The machine that they had before the ballad, basically the same size as the ballad. And before that I had a different brand of machine that was also had the same throat space as the baby lock ballad. So it's a good size throat space. I want to say it's like 14 inches, give or take, maybe. I should know that off the top of my head. I don't. It's written down somewhere so that I can find it if I need it. But so it doesn't have a ton of throat space, but it's got a good size throat space. It's definitely perfect for like baby quilts, little quilts. But I quilted a California king size quilt on that size machine. California king size quilt on a sit down like regular domestic sewing machine. So I did all the piecing for the quilt and all the quilting of the quilt on that sewing machine. So you can, but it can get, yeah, you have to build yourself these little nests. I have a video on free motion quilting a large quilt for a, I want to say that one was, it was bigger than twin size quilt. Might have been a queen size quilt that I quilted and did the video on the tips and tricks for quilting a big quilt on a regular domestic machine, because it can be done. Yeah. All right, so what's everyone else up to? I'm about halfway through packing these, so I'm going to keep going. Whew, been doing this for about 30 minutes, so it's going to go another 30 minutes, I think. We'll see. Maybe I'll get faster. I did pause to talk about sucking up quilting with, or sucking up fabric with dense quilting, so I'm clearly very distractible. Because yes, I want to do this, and yes, I want to get this done, but also it is boring, which is why I'm glad I'm hanging out with you guys. Yes, but I do, so I did quilt, and I have quilted, and I will quilt again, quilts on the domestic sewing machine. But the long arm is nice. The long arm that I have, so I've got the Baby Lock Galant XL on a Villa 2 frame. It's the 8-inch frame. There's a 2-foot extension, I think, that you can get on it to make it a 10-foot frame. So, but mine's an 8-foot frame. I think I said 8-inch, not 8-foot frame. Good size frame. And that's really all that I need. I don't really make a lot of quilts bigger than that. And if I make a quilt bigger than that, I'm okay with sending it out to have it quilted. I still will send, even though I have the long arm, I'm still happy to send quilts out because there's only one of me and I only have 24 hours in my day, just like everybody else. And I do need to sleep some of them. So it's fine. But yeah, so but I have Pro Stitcher Lite on it, which is lovely. So I've done some videos showing the Pro Stitcher Lite. It's basically like a tablet or computer mounted to the top, and then the machine itself is on a track with an XY axis. Like a printer head just goes back and forth left to right on the X axis, but this has a Y axis as well. So you can just grab like pre-programmed designs and say, yes, I want this design, repeat it across the quilt, and then repeat it down the quilt. And they're still like, you don't just say go and then it quilts the whole quilt. But it'll quilt a row and then you bring it back to the beginning. It's like an old school typewriter, I guess, where it'll go all the way to the end and then ding, it stops. It doesn't ding, it just stops. And then you trim off your thread and then you bring the carriage all the way back to the beginning. And then it goes, but it doesn't auto, like the old school typewriters, when you would bring the carriage back to the beginning again. And I am old enough to have used an old school typewriter, so I do know this is true. When you bring it back, it would like roll up to the next line. You have to do the rolling up to the next part of the quilt manually. So there is still some manual work, but it's pretty slick. And the computerized designs are really nice. And I mean, I haven't had enough practice on the long arm. They're definitely better than like smoother. They're very nice. I don't have those free motion skills on the long arm to be able to do designs like that at this point. So they're great designs and it gets it quilted and it gets it done fast. And the last quilt that I quilted on it was actually last weekend on Saturday. I can't show you that one. It's still G14 classified until probably close to this time next year. Sometimes we work that far out. But while the machine was quilting it, I worked on the binding and I had the binding, I cut it, sewed it together and pressed it and had it all ready to go while the quilt was quilting. So once the quilt was done being quilted, I trimmed it up and then I bound it. And it still needs a label. I'm still working on making sure that I label my quilts. I need to work on that. But yeah, it still needs a label and then it's done. Done. Well, thanks, Robert. I'm glad you like the pads. I'm so excited to get these out to people so that I want to see all the blocks that people design with them. That's fun. Yay! 2 little pads headed your way. Awesome. Yeah, people are ordering like some of them like handfuls of them to use them as like stocking stuffers or gifts for quilty friends, which I think is awesome. I love that. Yep. Ordering one for themselves and one for a friend. Yeah. Which was really the intent. I was wanting another. So last year, I like having like little gifty things that people can give quilty friends for like $10 or less. And I still have these from last year because these have continued to sell really well. These are the purse lights. So it's my logo on the back, but if you don't know it's my logo, then you don't know then it's just like a nice little quilt block. And they're magnetic, so they can clip onto a purse, but you can also clip them on your clothes. And then it's also nice because you flip it the other way. And this is magnetic, so this is a needle minder, so you can put your needle here when you're sewing. And then when you get it, there's a little tab here. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one out of inventory because I need one for my bag anyway. So I took the tab out and you press it and it's got a bright light or a little red flashing light. Those are just the 2 settings on it. So yeah, those were my little like fun quilty gifts that people enjoyed giving, because who doesn't like, does your phone have a light on it that you can use to look at the bottom of your purse? Absolutely, but not when your phone has fallen to the bottom of your purse. So the purse light is nice to be able to just, it clips on the side of your purse. It doubles as a needle minder. And it helps you, yeah, all the time. All kinds of things. Super handy. I can't wait to show the quilt shop where I work to see if we can carry them. I can imagine teaching a class in quilt design. That's so fun. Yeah, I'll be sending this out to distributors. So by the end of the week, all the distributors should have it up on their site as well. I was a little behind in getting that out to them. It was another very, very busy week last week, working on all the things. The number of like sit at the computer businessy things that one has to do in a day, like QuickBooks and you know, trademarks and patents and all those kinds of like it's not, they're all the necessary parts of being able to run a successful business, but They're not the, yeah, get to design fun things and put them out in the world part of the business. Okay. So I think this is the, yeah, these are those ones. These are the fun ones. As far, they haven't confirmed yet because I haven't sent it to Checker, but I'll be sending a Checker so that they can. And usually so for those of you who don't know, there are 4 major distributors in the US, and Checker is one of them. And so when I come out with products, I send it to the distributors and then they get to pick if it's something that they want to carry. Some of them will put it on their site and see how orders go. And then based on how orders pick up over the first week or 2, that's how they decide if they'll place an order and how many. But I would imagine that Checker's going to carry it. I obviously can't speak for them as a company, but we'll see. I mean, I hope so. But it does mean packing a bunch of these. Hopefully I'll have my son in here working on packing these and he can get those done so I don't have to pack all of them. But who knows? I'll probably be packing more. Maybe I'll pack the one that ends up in your shop. And hopefully you won't know the difference if I packed it or he packed it. Yeah, and I also, so the nice thing about these pads also is that the backs are blank. So you can use the back to write instructions or more cutting instructions, or if it was just a doodly sketch, you can just use the back for your grocery list. It's still a good notepad. Yep. The ones that are damaged, here, I'll show you this one. This one got damaged somehow in shipping. This one will be one of mine. It's been taken out and I'm going to use it. So I have a bunch just hanging out that I've been using for different, just playing with. I love designing quilt blocks. Yeah, I love designing quilt blocks. I think it's super fun. Yeah, I have someone who wants me to design a whole quilt version of a quilt doodle pad, which is trickier because a quilt can be any size. Quilts can be all sizes. Yeah. So, and it would have to be a bigger pad, which also gets more expensive. I looked at different sizes. I also looked at more sheets, but 50 is a good number. 50 is a good number of sheets. I have yet, granted, I've been bouncing between several different notepads, but I have yet to go through a whole 50 of them. So, hey, Quilting with Helen. Great to see you on the live. Thanks for joining in. I try to go live every now and then. I need to be better about it, hopping on here, because it's fun filming live or recording live because I get to have the interaction. Whereas usually when I'm recording, it's just me talking to people who aren't there yet because the video isn't live yet. And so it's a similar-ish conversation, but there's no actual back and forth. The back and forth happens later. So I kind of have the back and forth in my head and I'm guessing what people are going to want to ask or going to think. And I get it right sometimes. I don't get it all right all the time. And that's okay. And then they ask in the comments, and then I try to find those comments and try to answer them as best I can. Just out here doing my best. Oh, speaking of the long arm that we were talking about earlier, one of the things, I had to go to Ikea yesterday because I'm folding up all the fabric bundles for the advent calendar, and once they're folded up, I have to have the it's not on the bolts anymore, so all those folded fabrics have to sit somewhere. So I use those big white Ikea bins. So I went to Ikea to get those, and guess what? They don't have in stock right now at my local San Diego Ikea. Yeah, they don't have those big white bins. I think it's probably because probably a bunch of college students who went back to college went to Ikea and used those white bins because they're probably great for like under dorm beds, would be my guess as to why they're out. So I've like put in the thing to like notify me when they're back in stock, and I have some bins here that have like, I'll need to consolidate, figure out how to sort it out so that I have some bins to put some of that fabric in, because I had one empty one and I've already used it. But while there also, when I've been using the long arm, after like a day of like being with the long arm all day, my body is tired. My knees, my hips, my joints, because the office here has concrete floor with like really inexpensive laminate on top, and that's really rough on your joints. And so I got some of those anti-fatigue mats. They had some anti-fatigue mats there at the Ikea, and then I also got runner rugs to put on top of the anti-fatigue mats, because I think both having the anti-fatigue mat and the rug on top of one another will be that should be good, like the double layer of both a rug and the anti-fatigue mat. Yeah, Ikea is good. I mean, I used to live, well, when I lived in Las Vegas. When I lived in Las Vegas, there wasn't an Ikea there. So I think there is one now, but there wasn't when I lived in Las Vegas. So we had to check to get ourselves to an Ikea. When I lived up in San Jose, the closest Ikea was Emeryville, which I want to say was about an hour away, which isn't too bad, I guess, but was still like, you couldn't just pop over there. Whereas now the Ikea is like 30 minutes away, so it's not so bad. So I got some other bins. I got a big bin for the scrap batting that I keep making with the long arm. It's another video I need to do on putting scrap batting together in different ways to make Franken batting. That'd be a fun Halloween video, although it has nothing to do with Halloween. Spooky Franken batting. So Franken batting is like the nickname that quilters have created for sewing together or merging. It's because there's like it's called heat fuse batting together, if I remember right. So for either fusing together or stitching together batting pieces to be able to make larger usable pieces of batting. Franken batting. Yeah, Helen, and at the Ikea, it's so funny, they always ask your zip code, and I'm pretty sure they do that, like, they use that for marketing, so they're seeing, oh, there's a lot of people coming to this Ikea from this area, seems like there's a demand for an Ikea in the area with the zip code, so, yeah, I would make sure that every time that you go to Ikea to put in your zip code, so that they know, oh, there's, like, some demand for an Ikea in that area, a lot of people from that zip code are coming, and getting stuff. So, yeah, we looked online last night to see if there was another local-ish Ikea that did have those white bins in stock, and like there's one up in Covina, and then like another one in the Burbank area, and then there's one in Las Vegas. And I was like, man, if I'm gonna like go on a road trip to go to an Ikea, maybe I just want to like road trip to Vegas and have a Vegas weekend, and while I'm there just pop into the Ikea and get the bins that I need. But that seems like a lot more fun, is to just go to a Vegas road trip. Although lately I've really loved going on trips to quilt shops and checking out different quilt shops, and that's been super fun. And someone was telling me today that there's a newer quilt shop in San Diego. It's just south of the 8, just before going west, just before the 805. So I want to go check that one out. I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, and that's not going to come to mind. Let's see. Can you order online? The bins. I think I think it said like online only with like large orders or something. So I think if I'm ordering like a bed, I can order it with beds or something. I don't know, but it wasn't gonna let me just order them online. You live south of San Antonio and got one about 3 years ago. Guess I should visit it soon. I mean, if you want to keep your dollars, I would say don't visit it because IKEA gets my dollar. You can't go to IKEA and not spend money. Yeah. And this time, like, I didn't even hit the top of IKEA because I had a bunch of errands and things I was doing yesterday. I didn't need, like, I didn't need to see what shelves I needed or wanted, and I didn't need to go, like, look at where those shelves were, like, on the downstairs shelves, because I knew I needed baskets and bins, and the rugs, the anti-fatigue mats. I didn't know for sure if they had anti-fatigue mats, but they did. Yeah, I knew all the stuff that I needed was in the downstairs, so I didn't even go upstairs. I didn't even go upstairs to the cafe. Didn't even get myself a beverage. Just did a tour of the downstairs. Got the stuff I needed. Yeah. Oh, that's funny, Helen. I read San Antonio because I don't have, like, my readers are up here where they do me no good instead of right here where it helps me actually read. So, wear comfortable shoes. These are facts. I plan to spend, like, at least half the day there, and they have a cafe. So, like, if you've never been to an IKEA before, when you walk in, you, like, look straight ahead and there's stairs up. If you only want to do the downstairs, you can, like, go to the left of the stairs and it'll take you right into the downstairs. But you want to see the upstairs if you've never been to IKEA before. If you're my husband, you want to skip everything upstairs. And then it just takes you on this, like, path through the store, almost like a meander. Like, I bet you the layout path for IKEA would be, like, a really good meander design to quilt on a quilt. That's hilarious. But yeah, it takes you on a meander through the store, and you go through different sections. So, like, you start off in, like, sofas, and then chairs, and then shelving, and then you go into kitchens, and then, like, closets, and then there's, like, some, like, bathrooms, I think. Anyway, like, it takes you through, and in the different areas, they have rooms all laid out with all IKEA furniture, shelving, like, so you can kind of see, okay, this is like a 300 square foot space and what fits in here. Yeah. Yeah, it's a meander. And then once you get through it all, at the end, there is a cafe where you can grab a bite to eat, a drink, a snack, and then you head downstairs where they have, like, little things, like, they've got, like, a whole kitchen area where it's, like, cutting boards and spatulas and, like, Tupperware type things, obviously not Tupperware branded stuff. And then the lighting where you can, like, all the different kinds of lamps and picture frames, and then rugs and, like, plants, both fake and real, candles, like, all that stuff. So, like, kind of all the little accessories and things. And then baskets and bins and like, smaller storage stuff. They're IKEA pegboards. They're iconic IKEA pegboards with all the different accessories that they're creating for the different pegboards. So yeah, all that stuff. So it's and then when you get to the end, if you've picked any furniture from upstairs, like sofas or desks or tables or whatever, it's all sold in flat packs, and upstairs will have had a tag saying, like, A27. So you need to go find the A27 in the downstairs shelving to get the box or boxes that you need. And then right before you get to the registers is my favorite part, which is the as is section. And I love going through the as is section because sometimes there's some real gems in there. I got a sofa once in the as is section. Got a great deal on a sofa. It looked perfect. And I, like, the as is section will vary, like, what the stuff there is basically, it's stuff that's been returned mostly. I think some of it might be, like, floor models that they retire as well, but I think a lot of it's stuff that's been returned or stuff that's getting completely retired, like they're not selling this item anymore. But I know there's people who, like, I don't necessarily agree with this. They go to they're doing a trade show in a town, and so they buy the stuff, like the shelves, put them together, use them for the show, and then they go and return them to IKEA at the end, which I don't think is appropriate because you bought it and you used it for the purpose that you wanted to, and now you're getting a full refund. So basically you got rental furniture for the cost of putting it together, and then you got a full refund on it. Like, that just feels ick to me. I don't think that's okay. But there's people who do it, And then Ikea is selling this already put together shelving at a discounted price. Which, you know, if that's the shelving that you need, could be a good deal for you. So while the other people are being icky, you get a good deal. Yep, lighting also. They've got some like all different kinds of fun, great, interesting lamps. Some weird, they have some like pumpkins, like pumpkin light. And I was like, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. No, I don't need that. I do not have use for pumpkins. Or more pumpkins. We have faux pumpkins at the house. I don't need more. I'm good. Whew, I'm on my last stack here. I'm almost done with getting all these that I was hoping to get put together today. And then I've got to use my brain for my next project. So I'll have to log off after that. So if you've got questions, pop in now with questions. We've got about 5 minutes left. And then I'll head out. Oh. Yep. I didn't have my bins. I'm still sad. It's okay. Just means that I can't cut that fabric right now, which is okay. I've got other stuff to work on. Always have other. There's like always like, which of these 17 things should I work on today? The answer usually is all of them need to be worked on today, but I have to pick because there's still only one me. Still only one me. And then I could come in on Sundays. Usually when I come in on the weekends, I'll give myself like premium choice. I don't have to work on like the most urgent thing. I can work on the most fun thing usually. And that's what gets me. That's what still makes the weekends fun because otherwise the weekends aren't fun. So last weekend I came in. I'm taking Carly Porter's free motion quilting graffiti quilting class. So I came in and took her graffiti, like did her graffiti quilting class on Saturday, and then finished piecing and quilting my G14 classified quilt that I can't talk about yet. And then so that was fun because I got to like I finished and bound a quilt. It was so satisfying to have the quilt like bound, like it was done. The number of quilts that I have here that just need bind, it's embarrassing. Yeah. Or like the half quilted quilts that I stopped quilting. Yeah. Let's get on that. Maybe I'll do that on another weekend of just like finishing up quilts. They don't have a deadline. They don't really have a purpose, but they're just sitting around unfinished. And they need to be finished because you can't do anything else with them until they're finished. They need to be finished to be usable. So Helen says, I'm pretty excited. We have 2 living rooms and I'm making plans to convert one of them for my sewing quilting room, larger space than the bedroom. And that's awesome. I think that is the perfect use of it. Like, what do you need 2 living rooms for? Like, you're going to live twice as much in 2 living rooms and only if one's a sewing room. And like, where are you going to spend most of your time anyway? In the sewing room. Yeah, I approve. We had planned to do it spring break of 2020 anyway, and then pandemic happened, and so I actually did it a little bit early because my kids were on spring break a little earlier. But I now have the office in a separate building about 10 minutes away from my house. But we swapped out. So I had my sewing room in the second biggest room in the house, and then I swapped it into the master bedroom because we weren't making good use of the master bedroom space. So the master bedroom went into a smaller bedroom that still it fit our California king bed, but not by much. And I took over that bigger room, and then I outgrew that and had stuff in the garage and had stuff like behind the sofa in the living room. Like it was taking over the house, and so I got office space a year ago now. And I don't regret it at all. It's exactly what I need. And I'm trying really hard to not outgrow this space. Really, really hard to not outgrow it. And we just keep adding more shelves and adding more shelves. I started out with 2 shelves that then became 4 shelves. And then I've moved around the office so that the back room is now the shelving. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shelves. And like when Advent comes in, there won't be enough room for all of Advent in here. So, but that's okay. Most of Advent will go out very quickly after it comes in. So it's just temporary. So yeah, trying to manage space. Yeah, if you don't even use one, definitely, like, now you will use it so much. You'll get so much use out of that space. Be awesome. Whew. All right, this one and then last one, and then I'm going to sign off for today. But thank you for those of you who came and hung out and chatted with me for a little bit. It's always fun to connect, and even if I'm working on a Saturday, that's okay. And then if you order one of these, then hopefully shortly you'll be seeing an email with your tracking number, and these will go to the post office tomorrow. Post office and UPS, depending on, it always varies between the two, but yeah. All right, friends. Well, thanks again for hanging out. Helen, I enjoy chatting as well. Yeah, and if you want to reach out, you can always, like, in the comments of YouTube. Oh, should be a good YouTuber and say, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Probably should have, I mean, we've been hanging out for an hour. I probably should have said that like 6 times, at least once every 10 minutes. And here I am at the end saying, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, subscribe. I hit 70,000 subscribers this week, which was really, really exciting. So the goal is still to hit 100,000 by the end of the year, which is possible. I did the math. If I have like 9 viral videos between now and December 31st, then maybe I can hit 100,000, which I'm laughing because 9 viral videos is like in 3 months. I mean, it's not possible, but it's not realistic. So, all right, friends, thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you later. Bye.